I miss Dave sometimes, and then I realise he's actually a terrible person. Hello and welcome to the Video Gamer UK podcast. My name is Chris Bratt, and today we're running with just a three-man team.
Yeah.
We got Mr. Jim Trinker.
Yeah.
He thinks you're wrong about Assassin's Creed. Mr.
Yep.
Jim Trinker was what I am.
This is all true.
Potentially meant to say. And Master of Mario Kart, renowned lady killer of the South. It's Brett Phipps.
Hello. You're an arsehole.
Yeah. Simon is otherwise engaged, and everyone else is buggered off and hasn't turned up at work. So
They had reasons, to be fair.
well, yeah, but everyone's got reasons, Brett. They could have showed up for the podcast.
What, just come in?
Yeah. Frankly, I'm going to try and Skype Scammel into the podcast later on, which should be
That
fun.
could become a regular feature, Skyping with Scammel.
What if he's in the same room?
Still Skype
Just
him.
fuck it, do it.
Okay, we'll just yeah.
Catch him in the act.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm sure he's up to
Just
no good.
filter fuck out the audio so it sounds absolutely terrible. Nobody will know the difference.
Yeah, recording Skype calls is so fucking stressful. I do it every so often, and it's always
man. see the like those podcasts that are 3-hour unedited Skype conversations are unlistenable. I don't understand who they're for, why they're made.
it doesn't
but
matter if
some
you've got
of
the
those
best
are like-
internet connection in the world.
Yeah,
Skype itself will
Skype is
just
shit for
will
that.
Yeah.
Um,
doesn't
bail
work.
on you.
And yet, some of those podcasts are like
Way
the
more
biggest
popular than ours.
podcast. It's like, who listens to that? Who can listen to this? It's fucking it's unintelligible.
It's like
Like-
a phone conversation where they're trying to work out whose turn it is to speak. So you either
Yeah,
got
yeah.
a long silence when no one speaks, or
Yeah.
they're a bit, oh, gee,
I think
wait.
I think that is the advantage of being in the same room. Like the fact that this almost feels like a conversation, whereas when you're on Skype, there's just that slight delay, and you'll both start talking at the same time. And
Yeah.
Every conversation's like a fucking Paxman interview.
Yeah. But yeah, we're not on Skype, and that's okay. But
Well, they don't know that. It could be.
we are here to talk about some video games.
Vidian Gams.
So
Yeah.
It's in the name of the podcast. I almost feel like we kind of have to do that now, which is a shame.
Games.
It's just one of those, really. So
Games are shite, man.
the big one this week, Watch Dogs. We played it last night. Everyone
Has
is talking
everyone
about
in
it.
this room played Watch Dogs now?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I probably played the least, actually. I watched you play. Well, I watched you drive around the city like an asshole for about an hour and a half last night. Got so little done. But
It's an open world drivey shooty game. Like it's built to drive around like an asshole. That's what it's for.
My favorite thing about watching Jim play that game is that the thing with Watch Dogs is you do everything with square if you're on a PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like it's press square to hack this, press square to hack that, press square to stand next to something and make it explode and kill yourself immediately. Which was very fun to watch. You can't help yourself, can you?
I can't. Like every time that square prompt comes up,
Yeah.
I can't not do it.
Exactly. You don't even
Have-
read the description.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, even
well,
though like I unlocked the, I played it until 4 a.m. last night. Like I
Nice.
have to say straight off the bat, I fucking love Watch Dogs. It is brilliant. It's exactly my type of game. Loving every second. It was totally one of those kind of experiences that are getting a lot rarer now, where I will sit and play it and look up at the curtains and realize, oh shit, it's light
yeah.
again. That's not happened for a long time. Like for me, I think the last one was probably Skyrim.
Last
it's
GTA
been a
do
little
that
while.
for you?
No, not really. I mean,
much.
I absolutely adored GTA 5. Don't get me wrong, but it's just been a very long time since that whole, just that whole thing where you just don't know how much time you've spent has occurred. So that was quite nice. Although going to bed at 4 a.m. and
Yeah.
having to wake up at 8 wasn't very nice.
Not fun.
But there we go. What was I talking about? Yeah, I can't not do that square button prompt every time it comes up. I unlocked the the thing where you make the steam pipe under the road explode and send all the cars flying. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
Like I will do that when I'm on top of the fucking thing, just because I can do it. Totally fuck up what it is I'm doing.
We were like, I think the entire purpose of our live stream last night was to show off that you can crash your car into fucking anything in that game, and it doesn't matter. Like it takes so much to like even not to even make your car explode, to make it feel like you've just run into a truck or activated a steam pipe underneath you. Because Like you'd popped all your wheels last night, I think, at one point, and
the
there were
car
sparks flying off. It looks like you'd popped all your wheels, but in terms of how it drove,
all the tires were popped, sparks everywhere, all 4 wheels were gone, and the car was still perfectly drivable,
just going fine.
Like no problem steering, no nothing. So like the damage model on the cars is maybe not that great.
I honestly think playing in first-person view whilst you're driving makes that experience better, just because that's just you completely accepting that it's ridiculous, because you're like, it's so like, that's why I actually really liked driving in Far Cry 3, even though it was impossible. Like just driving around, it felt like the Benny Hill theme was on constant loop, because you just...
I totally get what you mean with the Far Cry 3.
You just crash into everything.
You know what? After the first couple of goes you have at it, I never bothered driving anywhere in Far Cry 3, because it is so much easier to just fucking walk, because you can actually see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It was so so messed up.
And your man Jason in Far Cry 3 zips about at a fair old pace when he's walking anyway. So.
Whereas Aiden is more of a... He's got a slower thing about him. He's always like hunkered over.
He's not as quick as
phone.
Ezio. He's a bit more cumbersome, and
always looks like he's ready to flash his car at any point, because he's got his hands ready.
That's why he's hiding from the authorities.
Yeah.
That's why the whole story started.
He's hunched over, hands in the pockets to the front of the trench coat.
When he gets his phone, it looks like about to show someone a dick pic. Like, see totally. That? That's me. You like it?
It's basically a man who looks like he's constantly walking around mumbling, "Do you want to see my dick? You want to see my dick head?"
just stands around near a park bench.
Yeah,
just doesn't go anywhere. There's no need to go anywhere. He's like,
that actually sounds like a more interesting character than what I saw of Aiden in the stream last night. Once again, when we live stream these games, it's often hard to really follow the story and do it justice. It's supposed to be pretty good though, right? That is actually one of the big pulls of Watch Dogs, according to Stephen Burns anyway.
The story and the characterization and everything, that stuff is great as well. Like that, and that is a genuine surprise, because well, I'd say it's a surprise. I've really enjoyed, like, the main hook for the Assassin's Creed games for me has been the story. Like, I wouldn't have played them all to completion if I wasn't into it at that level, because otherwise, if you're not into the story, like, you play the first third of an Assassin's Creed game, you've done it. Like, you know.
I didn't find Aiden that interesting really until we started playing it. The one thing I really do like about him, and I mentioned this a couple of times, is the way he's animated, the way he walks around. I know we're poking fun at it then. It completely fits his character. Like the way he holds a gun when he's walking down the street, the way he's looking at his phone, and it makes it look like he's not paying attention to the things around him. It completely, like, you understand what that character is all about just by the way he walks around, and that's a pretty fucking cool thing to be able to accomplish.
Ubisoft are so good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
It's been the
all
same
those
in
little
Assassin's Creed
details that really establish.
In fact, it is very similar to Assassin's Creed. It's often head down, blend into the surroundings.
Although, like, talking about like the characterization that you can get out of just the quirks of the animation, like Ezio swaggered about, like, big, massive waving dick, you know, like, and that was brilliant. Like, just from his gait, you could tell, like, this guy was a confident man.
It was perfect when he hung
had
around.
A big penis.
Yeah,
did Ezio.
When he hung around the what's the name of the groups of women that you could attract?
The
courtesans.
Yeah, like when Ezio took those with him, or he threw the money around, he sort of, like, he hung his hand in the air, and he felt like he owned the room. Like, you definitely got that.
He was the Brett Phipps of that kind
Don't
of
you start, Brett. It's not now. It's far too early today.
And the other protagonist, like Altair, totally different. Like, superficially moves the same way. And Connor from Assassin's Creed 3, Edward from Assassin's Creed 4. Like, on the surface, all those characters look kind of the same, but then there's those little details that come through that just reflect the sort of characters they are. That they're all very slightly different, like in ways that actually make perfect sense. Ubisoft are great at that stuff. I'm a bit of an Ubisoft fanboy, I'm sure.
But
sure that's coming through.
I think Ubisoft are also really good at creating a very strong support cast around the central character as well. Like, even in Watch Dogs, I can't remember the name of
Jackie Chin or whatever it is, Mr. Chin.
Geordie Chin.
Jackie Chin.
Geordie and Jackie were fairly similar names.
But
right.
one's a bit offensive.
Is it?
Can be. But the support characters, like in Far Cry, they create such a great enemy for you to identify. And same Far Cry 4 looks so good. That main antagonist looks brilliant. And same with Assassin's Creed, all the support characters that you meet, like Da Vinci, and everyone. It's really good to go and just speak to those guys and see what they have to
Yeah,
say.
absolutely.
And so Watch Dogs, when I played the opening mission, and is it what's the name?
Geordie Chin.
It is Geordie, yeah.
Geordie Chin.
And when you meet him, and he's a brilliant arsehole.
Yeah.
That's what he is. He's brilliant
Yeah.
at that, and he's got that swagger about him as well. The suit matches the character profile perfectly, and yeah, it's really, really good. And that's why I enjoy doing. And you just enjoy speaking to them as well.
Yeah.
All right. To be on the other side of the fence here, I feel like I'm the least into the Ubisoft open world games. Sorry about that. I know that makes me wrong, but I just like I enjoyed Watch Dogs. I really liked watching you just mess around in the world, and like the hacking stuff does look impressive, but it just. I don't know. I kind of felt it felt a little bit superficial. There's a lot of just when you're
the hacking stuff has come under a lot of fire because it is essentially press square to trigger stuff. And all right, fair enough. But I can't really. I understand that criticism, but I can't really think of a way that they could have done it differently.
Yeah.
Like if every time you wanted to hack the traffic lights, for example, so that you cause a pile up. If when you did that, you had to do a little mini game. Like, it's not just a button press.
Yeah.
That would have totally ruined the flow of the game.
And I'm okay with the fact that it's a square prompt. And I think at times that's one of its biggest strengths, because you can be walking towards someone, doing something else, and hacking, like disrupting their communications or whatever, all in one process, and it feels like it's flowing and it makes sense. Yeah. I just when I watched that initial kind of the reveal of Watch Dogs, I know people keep going back to that, and maybe it's a little bit unfair, I don't know, but I saw a game that offered a lot more freedom than, say, when you're escaping from the police. It's traffic lights, steam pipes, and controlling bridges. Yeah. Those are like the three main things that you interact with whilst you're driving. I just imagined a game that had a little bit more personality, a little bit more freedom to do a variety of things.
You do gradually unlock more shit as well.
Yeah, but that's at the end of Steve's campaign.
Well, this is true, but I mean, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, and I think one of the points that Steve made was that like the game is very, I don't think he said repetitive, but basically repetitive. Like all the activities are very samey once you boil them down. You can be very sort of reductive about it, and but I mean, it doesn't. There's enough kind of window dressing that it doesn't feel. They mask the bare bones of the experience pretty well. Like, I mean, everything you do in that game is walking somewhere and pressing a button.
Yeah.
But it's the context that they give it, and it's the that whole traffic light stuff. When you nail that, when you nail a neutralization when you're being chased by the police, you get the prompt perfectly. And there's just that brief, the camera cuts back to everything smashing into each other, and you just cause that. It feels so fucking Hollywood. Like, you totally feel like you're in Die Hard or some shit. It feels like, when you miss the bus that you wanted to go for, and you get another bus that's going a slightly different route, and get off that one and manage to run and get the one that you were originally meant to go for. When you totally feel like you're fucking you feel like Die Hard 3 basically. Like, the game's full of that many moments. I hope that's not a stupid analogy.
I don't remember that part of Die Hard 3 where he catches the bus just
when like Samuel Jackson was going for a bus and that. I'm not saying that isn't that stuff does look satisfying, and like fair enough. There's the side objectives in that game. It's a lot of the same stuff. There's a lot of gang hideouts. They all kind of seem to operate in the same fashion, and on one side that is a criticism, but on the other it also means that there's constantly stuff to be doing in that game, and it feels like the game is so full of stuff to do.
I spent 2 hours playing chess. I spent 2 hours playing chess in that game.
Yeah, I spent an hour last night playing chess.
It's so good, that stuff. It's really challenging.
There's so many different variations of the chess as well. There's the challenges, and there's actual full chess, and there's like... They've really put a lot of work into how, not just like every sort of mini game seems to have different permutations. So it's like you're not doing the same thing all the time. It's really cool. I think sorry, I was just going to say, like, I don't. The game I thought Watch Dogs was going to be wasn't just. It wasn't like mini games and mechanical spiders, and maybe like that's interesting. I'm not going to say controlling a mechanical spider and climbing up buildings and blowing shit up isn't going to be entertaining. Of course it is. It's just
maybe not the like the big step forwards that's maybe the game
maybe
could have
isn't, but it doesn't redefine the open world action genre, right? I mean, it's not like this is now the next gen version of GTA or anything like that. Like it was perhaps sold as, or perhaps that's where it sat in everyone's mind that this is going to be the start of next gen was Watch Dogs, and it turns out it's actually a game that could quite happily have been and has been released on last gen, no problems. But it's a really, really good example of that genre. Like it's that genre at its peak. Like this is like kind of the ultimate Ubisoft open world game. It is fantastic. To compare it to the other two Ubisoft staples, I mean, like Far Cry 3. I think me and Brett were talking earlier about how Far Cry 3 and Watch Dogs are all very much sharing the same DNA as Assassin's Creed. Even to the point where, like, to unlock bits of the map, you have to climb a tower.
Yeah, they love that.
They love that tower climbing shit. You know, I mean but you know that's great. It's a formula that works. It's a great hook, and you know I've no problem with them using it. I love it. But like Far Cry 3 was a game where the overall narrative and the overall experience wasn't really what you were there for. It was like it was a game full of sort of brilliant, satisfying moments. And Assassin's Creed, you were there for the overall narrative. And
Watch Dogs maybe somewhere in between?
It wasn't, I mean, Assassin's Creed isn't really a game of satisfying moments, whereas Far Cry 3 is just a chain of them, and that's basically what you're there for. Watch Dogs manages to pull off both. It's got a really interesting story. There's a lot of really cool ideas in there. It explores a lot of interesting themes and stuff like that. But it's also got that shit where you can hit a button and send a fucking car that's chasing you 50 feet into the air. And it really nails that stuff as well. So it's kind of like the ultimate culmination of the two kind of strengths of previous games.
I completely understand why people like it. For some context, I didn't like Far Cry 3. Like not because I saw its strengths. It just wasn't my type of game. And I think that Watch Dogs is just another example of that, really.
Totally.
The biggest problem Ubisoft have is that they simply announce games far too early. They announced Watch Dogs 2 years ago. They announced The Division, was it last E3? And then that's their problem, is that they announce these games, and what they do is they use the concept stuff that they push to their investors, and that's what they use to show consumers. And the problem that they have there is they announce it so long ago that the average consumer, all they have to go on is that first reveal, that first trailer. Totally. And all they have is that expectation, so that when this game comes out now, they think that it's going to be the exact same as what they saw then. And
I think that's
the problem. They leave it far too long, long enough for the rot to set into the hype.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if they'd done that E3 reveal last year and released Watch Dogs when it was supposed to be released, like it would have been huge. And I don't think people would have been upset.
And had you shown what Watch Dogs is now back then, or a more realistic version of what Watch Dogs is now, a little bit more hype, people wouldn't have this sort of slight tinge along with their anticipation to it as well.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because like it feels like Ubisoft have had a bit of stick over the last couple of days because of that initial reveal. But to be fair to them, like the trailers and the gameplay they've released since then is much truer to the game. It's just weirdly, because that reveal was so impressive, it was the best thing that I saw at that year's E3. It did just kind of
a victim of its own success.
Exactly, it's their own fault for doing it. That's the thing. Is they keep showing unrealistic targets, and then they fail to meet them. The game will be considered a failure.
They left enough for I got carried away with the idea. So when you're walking around, you bring out your phone and you look at information about people. You see their age, their income, and something not important about them, but something unusual about them. Something that sets them apart from other people.
Something personal.
I saw that and I thought, oh man, my mind started racing with what that could mean. So like maybe if you followed that person, you could see them interacting with whatever trait that was in some respect. Or an example that we saw in a pretty basic one when I was playing with Steve, and we were taking out a gang hideout, and one of the guys had like training in judo. That was like his trait. And it doesn't mean he's better at like melee combat. And maybe that's a silly thing to hope for, but I just wish those traits because they make all the characters seem individual then,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
they're not.
absolutely, yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
my mind just raced after seeing that initial reveal and hoped for a game where you walked around and you saw someone had judo training and
Yeah.
like that character had that ability.
You have to stay away. Yeah, it makes sense.
And that would have felt next gen to me, whereas at the moment it just feels like a really good.
It's window dressing.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
But it's really good window
Yes,
dressing,
yeah.
but it is just window dressing. Like, similar example last night on the live stream we were doing, there were two characters on the street, about 10 feet apart from each other. And on one of them, the info said protests abortion clinics. And then the one 10 feet down the road from him said is vehemently pro-choice. And you were
Right.
Like that.
is there a way to make these guys argue with each other or
It
something?
It
You know
felt
what I
so
mean?
perfect, and maybe there is something that triggers later on. But I would have been really impressed to see that, even if it was completely staged, just to see those two things and see them interacting and arguing. In that reveal trailer, one of the things that stood out after that they triggered the traffic lights and there was a car crash. Like a bunch of stuff happens that never made it into the final game. People rush over to check on the people that have crashed. So pedestrians will rush over and try and help those who've crashed and talk to them and say, "Are you all right?" And then someone had been injured and was just left in their car, and you have to drag their kind of friend out because they're in danger. And like that stuff all feels really dynamic and feels like the world matters and that what you're doing is changing stuff, rather than in the end it's just become this kind of press square to make a crash happen, and you can do that over and over again. And it doesn't really change anything. If you go back there 2 minutes later, the road will be clear, and that's it. And
I know what you mean. Like the way Assassin's Creed, you can get guards away from doors. You can do it in a different way, like the courtesans or starting an argument in the street. If you could, like you say, use the trades, use the tools at your disposal to create an incident to get people away from
I bet
the place where you got to go.
There are going to be situations in the main missions where they can control that, where that happens. I'm sure there will be. But it would have been nice to see that kind of feed out into the world and make it just feel a little bit more alive. I remember when Bethesda used to market. I remember when the first reason I got into Morrowind is because I was told that all the characters have routines, and so this character stays at home between these hours, goes to the tavern at a certain time. And
seriously?
Maybe I'm thinking Oblivion, actually.
I think Oblivion, yeah.
Was Oblivion the first time they had? Yeah, it was, actually.
Yeah,
of
it
course
was, because Morrowind, like, every character just fucking stood there.
Yeah. Sorry, but that kind of basic routine, and so every character had an individual thing. Yeah. And that eventually did become... You could pretty much guess it. They were always either in the house or at the tavern, usually, or like unless it was something specific.
But it worked. That was one of the few things about Oblivion that really worked and really added something to Elder Scrolls. Like that was great. You could every NPC had an actual schedule that made a lot of sense.
That is such a huge task to try and do. But I mean, these are the games, the only games that can do it, because they're the only ones with the budget to ever reach something like that. And so, like, if that's, I think that maybe that's the only reason I'm a little disappointed with it. It's a fun game. It's just not that. Like that would be the big step forwards, I think.
Yeah.
But again, that's down to their marketing thing, that they put those expectations upon every consumer. It's the way that they need to control that by the way that they reveal these games, to reveal what they showed all of us.
They need to sit down on their their E3 stage and go, listen, all right, this is a game about pressing square and doing cool shit. Here's an example of some cool shit you can do.
Just a picture of the square button.
Please don't blow this out of proportion. It's just, you can do that. Look at that fucking explosion. That's great. You're going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And then I would have been, all right, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty
But again, it's a weird balance, right, for every developer, that they've got to create hype, but also make sure they either meet it or...
And I tell you what...
I
tell you what, Watch Dogs is like one of, if not the most pre-ordered new IP ever, right?
Yeah. Second only to Titanfall.
Watch Dogs is going to do well.
So
I don't think there's any question.
So on their point of view, they're probably going to be like, well, if you want to think that I'm pre-ordered the game, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes into the whole, the dangers of pre-ordering, particularly with new franchises.
One of the hardest things to do, just in life, is manage expectations.
Yeah.
Like, because there's such a fine balance to get, like, without. Because if you manage expectations too much, you're selling yourself short.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's PR must be a difficult job. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I find it very difficult to. I mean, a lot of people talk about game, and it's not just Ubisoft. Games companies when they oversell something or something doesn't quite deliver on its promises. I find it really, really difficult to get behind the people who really throw a lot of vitriol at that.
It depends on the scale of it, doesn't it?
Like, I mean, I know you shouldn't read the comments on the internet, but I've seen so many comments about how Ubisoft have done a bait and switch and how they should be ashamed of themselves. I've seen people demanding refunds because Watch Dogs doesn't look
I saw
like
some
the E3
prick
reveal.
justifying the fact that he was going to pirate the game because I hope he gets. Is Watch Dogs the? Oh no, it was Wolfenstein that had a version with like a Bitcoin miner as part of the pirates.
Totally.
It's just mad.
But it's like you got to be realistic at some point and realize that, like, yeah, okay, that PR company that devised the marketing campaign or whatever, they're playing the game. You're playing the game by watching an E3 stream. We're all playing the game.
Yeah, don't be spoon-fed what you're seeing.
We all, I think, like, we all need to be sensible about it and take a step back and realize that everything we're watching or listening to should be taken with a pinch of salt.
They got to sell it to you. Yeah,
it's their job to sell it, and it's our job to critique it, and it's the consumer's job to fucking spend their money or not. You know what I mean? Don't make out like it's a big, massive ethics crisis if fucking Watch Dogs doesn't look like the E3.
Yeah,
review.
I think in the end of the day, if that is important to you and the difference between that reveal and what the game looks like now has marred it somehow, then don't pre-order. That's the end of it. That's all you need to really.
But I would say that it's sorry, man. I was just going to say that I think even though it doesn't look as impressive as that initial E3 reveal, which was probably running on a PC that none of us could afford.
Yeah. I think they've actually said
Ultron. It's probably
they've said the PC was running on it.
That's the other thing as well. They never claimed this was running on a PS4, did they? I mean, they were quite open about the fact that, like, it's like your console version isn't going to look like that.
Yeah.
This
that
was
massive wall behind was probably the PC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, this was running on a fucking Silicon Graphics render farm or some shit.
A fucking transformer, probably.
Exactly. We've got Optimus Prime in the back. But people just need to stop being silly about these things. But it still looks good. It's not a bad looking game. Like, I've only played the PS4 version. I've not seen. I'm sure it looks a lot better on PC at ultra high settings if you want to be master race about it. But
if you spent that much on a PC that can run it on ultra, then be master race about it. You may as well.
Well, I mean, you sort of earned
for that,
it.
right?
Well done, you, for spending money. But it's not a bad looking game. And I if I didn't know that it wasn't running at full 1080p, for example, I know it's running at 900p in the PS4. If I didn't know that, if I hadn't read that beforehand, I would not have fucking noticed. It looks lovely.
Yeah, when it's dark and it's raining and you're moving around and your coat's swishing with you, then it looks great.
At no point, I mean, I played it from about 8. Not 8. Well, maybe about 9 o'clock last night till about 4 in the morning. And at no point during that was I thinking, well, this is 900p. I'm just not enjoying this at all. I got it. You get into it, and ultimately these things don't matter when you're playing. It
is strange. That has become such an important issue in the more vocal parts of the internet. I kind
of understand.
I get why.
I think it's to do with the fact that we've just had new hardware. It's expensive, and you kind of want to justify that. And one of the easiest ways to do that is
visuals,
by saying this is next gen because it looks like that. And
I do understand where people are coming from a sort of there is kind of a false advertising angle, but I think to think about it in those terms is maybe simplifying the issue a bit too much.
There's two really good pieces on the idea of how games are promoted and the consumer side of it. Steve did a really good piece on it a few weeks ago. I can't remember the title of it, but it's on the site. And also, Danny O'Dwyer over at GameSpot did a really good video feature on it on The Point, where he
I remember Danny O'Dwyer's goddamn the name of
the video.
It's fucking, this is bullshit, Brett. It's goddamn bullshit.
But both of them are really, really good in talking about tempering expectation. Also, the fact that although it's being put across to you that way, you still got to interpret it. Like we were just saying about, it's your job to interpret it and take those expectations and make of them what you will. And like you're saying, it's not as if you're not going to enjoy it. That is purely It's there's still an experience there to enjoy it, and the visual thing.
I was trying really hard with the. We did a video just comparing that reveal trailer to to the PlayStation 4 version. I was being really careful not to say, Watch Dogs is shit. I can't believe it doesn't look as good. I just tried to frame it as this is the difference.
Simply
now you
Oh yeah,
decide,
totally.
like,
I mean that is basically this is what it looks like now. These are the differences, which is absolutely fair enough. Absolutely, but the thing about the next gen consoles as well, not impressing visually as much as they should. I think folk are again kind of exaggerating how bad it is.
I think also the fact that a lot of the big budget games, because they're big budget, a lot of them don't leave cross-gen yet.
They have to be cross-gen.
So because of that, we can't see that big step forwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's still less than a year old as well.
That's the thing. Like the PS4 and the Xbox One are not even a year old yet. We're still really early on in the gen. If you can, I know this is a really obvious point to make, but if you compare early Xbox 360 games to the latter day Xbox 360 games, it's fucking night and day.
Crazy.
Like compare how Oblivion ran on just to go back to Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, always go back to Elder Scrolls.
Compare Oblivion on the 360 to Skyrim on the 360. Oblivion on the 360 didn't run at 720p. It looks, I mean, they're basically the same engine as much as Bethesda tried to market speak and make out that it wasn't, but it is basically Gamebryo. So it's practically similar assets, similar engine. Skyrim looks a lot nicer than Oblivion on the 360. Like Oblivion looks like shit on the 360 now. In comparison to the later stuff. Halo 3 versus
Reach
or Halo 4, yeah. Again, the difference is I mean, that however long it was, what a difference of 5 years, 6 years, massive amount of difference. And I bet you any money that when Watch Dogs 2 comes out, the PS4 version of Watch Dogs 2 is probably going to be running in 1080p and will look a lot nicer than Watch Dogs, and probably. I know Steve kind of did an article about this, about Watch Dogs 2 is when it's really going to shine.
Yeah.
In much the same way as you had that difference between Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, where the second game was the one that really fulfilled the potential of the series. I genuinely think, but by the time we're looking at Watch Dogs 2, all these controversies about it running at 900p, they're going to be a distant memory.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, because things change.
Yeah,
it's strange.
Nobody's gonna give a fuck about the resolution Watch Dogs ran at in 5 years' time.
I'll remember, Jim.
Nobody's gonna give a fuck about it in 6 months' time. Honestly.
I guess. Well, that's probably.
And when your grandchildren are having to murder each other with sharpened twigs for the last thimble of water in the Northern Hemisphere.
Is this Last of Us 3?
Nobody's going to be nobody's going to be stabbing their brother in the neck and going, well, you know what, it's 900p.
Still really gets me. Well, there's Jim taking over the role
perspective, man.
Of Steve Burns.
And I've just said a line out loud, which I used in a review recently, which is yet to be published. So
nice.
I've doubled up on some patter there, sorry.
Yeah, I do all the freaking time, man. I reckon that's us probably Watch Dogs out then. We've kind of...
Yeah, totally. I think it's cracking. I fucking love it.
All right, well, that's all that's important. You're doing a TAM video, right, for Watch Dogs? Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that come back.
Sorry, just gulped a little water.
How do you decide which games...
Well, I'm not doing a TAM video. TAM is obviously...
Yes,
I don't want to take all the credit.
Sorry.
Say Santa Claus isn't real.
What's
the matter with you? Fuck's sake. Santa real?
Yeah.
What's the matter here?
Sorry.
Someone asked if Tam McLeish could be on the podcast the other day, and I was like, it's basically going to have to be me sitting there, probably in the house coat, just to help maintain character.
I was... Right. Oh God! I'm not sure I'd cope for an hour.
I'm kind of getting embarrassed by fucking Tam McLeish now, to be honest, because it's like, it was funny when Far Cry 3 came out, but it's the same joke. He's an alcoholic policeman who fucking goes about in a house coat.
Still funny though.
Yeah,
still funny.
It's just like every time I even I record a bit of Tam McLeish stuff and then I look at it in the edit and
you
I'm
catch yourself in the mirror. It's like,
oh my God, what are you doing? That's why I want to replace him with that old dad character that we did for that
who's
Mass Effect video.
Probably an alcoholic, grumpy swearing.
That's all I got, man. You know,
I reckon. We
alcoholism and swearing. I don't know anything.
We need to do that with Dota 2 because it would be so easy. I was like, when I try and explain, I want to talk about Dota 2 right now, and I know it'll only go badly for all of us. But the international qualifiers are very entertaining.
Don't do it.
Sorry.
Please,
okay.
don't do it. I've played a bit of Dota 2 and I don't even want to hear this.
I have to address something very, very small. That wasn't a complaint or anything, but on that Chris Explains Mass Effect to his dad video that we did, a lot of people were like, so how come Chris's dad in this has got a different accent to Chris? My dad has got a fucking Welsh accent. So it happens. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't think we're very close in this fictional world.
No, not at
where
all.
You're my old Dar.
You ran off to Stoke.
Yeah. And I was going to leave that. Other than Watch Dogs, has anyone played anything else? We played some Worms Battlegrounds this morning.
Yeah, we played a bit of that. I've got a review for that going up today.
It was fun. I enjoyed it immensely.
It was.
It hasn't changed the series in the slightest since I played it back on the PlayStation 1.
I mean, spoiler alert, like basically the review I did was mainly an excuse to talk about the impending apocalypse. But
nice.
The point I was essentially making was, look, it's Worms. Mm-hmm. There is not much you can say about a new Worms game. Yeah. They're all basically the same fucking game. And the thing about Worms Battlegrounds is this is the Worms for the PS4 and the Xbox One. It's a new gen, new Worms game. And that's it. That's the draw. If you like Worms and you want it on your new hardware, it is for you. If you're really quite happy with the old one, then you really don't need to
buy Worms Battlegrounds if you want to put your other console away. You just want your Xbox One or PlayStation 4.
If your Xbox 360 is in the fucking charity shop, then get Worms Battlegrounds. If you're still quite happy with Armageddon, then Armageddon is going to... There's not much. The only major difference that I could see, and they specifically mentioned it in the press release, was there was some kind of renewed focus on single player gameplay with a story mode.
Better with Connect.
Yeah, totally. They've done story mode stuff before with Worms games, and it's always bullshit, tacked on nonsense that nobody gives a toss about, and it's still tacked on nonsense. The only story
you need in that game was the fact that you and I, when we were playing, had named our characters, and it was funny that Ross Kemp was having a hard time. Like that's all the story I ever need from Worms.
Totally. Ross Kemp was a one-man army in the match we had this morning. It was brilliant. Yeah, totally. And which is rather like the actual real Ross Kemp. But yeah, I mean, you made the point as well that this whole Worms was kind of almost like a great early example of emergent gameplay. Mm-hmm. Like you make your own stories and shit. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Is so important.
The story develops as you play the game between two of you. That's what happens.
It's great. You make up little narratives in your head, make little jokes and stuff. And it's the same shit. It's got the same hook as The Sims. Basically anything where you get to name a team, XCOM.
Like the example of that.
And that's the appeal of those games. You make a team full of people either you like or you don't like, and you watch them battle it out.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, that's natural. That's an interesting one. Should you pick people
Worms
that you like or not like in that game, because they die pretty easily.
Well, I don't want anyone throwing a sheep at my mum.
Hi.
To be fair,
it's a fair point. It's a fair point. So maybe don't put your mum.
Brat's team this morning. He was like, right, I'm gonna make 4 of my favourite things, and the last one was Jim Trinker. But he then clarified, well, no, that's not one of my favourite things. That's just psychological warfare because I don't think you'd be able to bring yourself to hurt yourself.
He did,
and he was the first fucker I killed. Yeah. So fuck you.
That's fun.
Is that for Chris or for you? The fuck you.
For Chris.
Right.
It's always for me.
Yeah.
But it's weird that it does seem like I don't really know what Team 17's overall plans are right now, but it does seem like they're moving away. I don't think it is.
I don't know.
I don't know that it. I think they need other things outside of that, and I think
they must be realizing that they're not going to be able to milk Worms for much longer. Yeah. Surely.
And I like when I went to Res, they were showing some stuff off there, and like they had a Worms game, but like they they were more eager to talk about the other stuff. One of the weird spin-offs they're doing is a game called Flockers, which is a Lemmings game where you play the sheep in the Worms universe, and the worms have like got them in this horrible factory, and you're trying to escape. And like
Abe. Like Abe's Odyssey style.
Yeah, kind of. It's like this really brutal...
You get a glimpse into the wider Worms universe. Yeah. The Worms war machine is exposed.
It is a war machine. It's like... Yeah, I don't know that...
I always thought Worms would have made a fucking brilliant Saturday morning cartoon. Did they ever do that?
Yeah, it does feel like they should have, really, yeah.
Considering what Angry Birds has become.
Yeah, totally.
It worked really well.
Worms kicks the shit out of Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Fuck Angry Birds. But Worms would have been amazing.
It's got the perfect art style for it, hasn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, it's got the perfect setup for it as well. Yeah, it's just angry worms.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But yeah, I'm surprised that they never did that. I bet they must have looked into doing that.
Yeah, they must
Surely.
have. Because it'd be the same episode every week, just with different names over the heads for the fights.
Wacky Races.
Wacky Races. Yeah,
damn straight.
That would have been fantastic.
That'd been perfect. Yeah.
That's the direction.
That's their new thing.
I would watch. I would go to the cinema and watch Worms the movie.
Yeah, there's a fucking Postman Pat movie now, so we need a Team 17. If you're listening, you're talking about new projects, then make a Saturday morning cartoon for me, Brat, and Jim.
Yeah.
No one else, just us.
There we are.
It'll totally be like Power Rangers as well. It's like, you know, that bit in Power Rangers, like, oh fuck, they're getting the Megazord.
Yeah,
it's happening. It's happening.
Oh, the sheep's coming. I can hear it.
Yeah.
He's put the bandana on. He's gone. That's
Napalm strike. Fuck. This is blowing my mind. I'm 7. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had fun with it. I'm glad I went back to Worms finally. It's taken a while to muster up the...
It's kind of... I would never have played Worms Battlegrounds if I wasn't doing this job.
Even then, you probably wouldn't have done it except for the fact that it's on a next-gen platform.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see if that means anything for Worms. I don't think it does, but...
It's a as I say, I mean, I've done a review for the site for it. It's a difficult game to score because, like, you can't give it a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 because it's the same game they did 10 years ago. Or frankly, it's the same fucking game they did 20 years ago. Which I remember really fondly. And it's still the same game. And like, you sort of think, well, it was brilliant when I was a kid. It's still basically the same. So technically you should be able to justify a really high score for it. But at the same time, you can't really justify a high score for it because it's the same fucking game.
It's one of those examples
so
where
it's really tight. So what do you do? Do you give it a 5 out of 10?
But it's not worse than the one that you would have given an out of 10 originally.
You give it a low score and it looks like you're... I think it's a fucking conundrum.
I think that's
really
one of the best examples of why review scores sometimes don't necessarily matter.
I also think how you react to this game depends on how long ago it was you last played Worms. Like you say, you haven't played it in a while, so you really enjoyed it now. Whereas for someone who's played Worms 6 months, a year ago, they probably won't have any interest in it. For someone, I haven't played Worms in 4 or 5 years, I'd be interested in playing that for a couple of games. Once you play a couple of games of it, you're fine.
Still someone throws a sheep at your mum, you go off in a straw.
Yeah. But it's like people who only play...
That's a big problem in the north, by the way.
can't go to the fucking supermarket without some prick walking up with a goddamn...
Throwing a sheep at me mum.
Yeah. Well out of line.
Every fucking Wednesday.
Right, this isn't going to happen.
Can't I move for fucking sheep getting thrown at us, mum?
Oh, good. Our Newcastle following is going to hate us.
I don't know how you forced this character onto me. I don't. It's worked as well. I don't know how you've done it, Jim.
I know my brat impression is like my brat impression is fucking a Vic Reeves character.
Oh God. Oh, that's good.
Oh no, me whippets in the fucking sawdust.
I was trying to desperately think of a way of getting away from that before you said that line, which I don't really understand.
Your segues are forwarding. You've got to be quicker. Otherwise, our Geordie following just gone now. That's it. No one now. They're all turning off. That's them. They've even chucked their iPods in the bin.
Talking of gameplay leaks.
Really?
Did you see today that there's a new Battlefield game on the way? It's been confirmed by EA.
It's Battlefield Police, isn't it?
That's it. It's called Battlefield Hardline, but Police is probably the best way to describe it. It's essentially cops and robbers in a Battlefield engine.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that it's not Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as the two main characters, though.
Yeah, man,
that would have been.
Yeah, there is a single player element to it that it seems to suggest. And
why hasn't Will Smith been shoehorned into a game yet? I would buy and play the shit out of anything with Will Smith in it.
Yeah,
even if it was a Call of Duty game.
I'm sure he was. There was a Bad Boys game, wasn't there? Wasn't there a Bad Boys game?
It was probably terrible.
Yeah, I think his face was just.
I'm sure there's been about a dozen Men in Black games that have all been absolutely dire as well. Yeah.
There was even a Fifth Element game as well.
Oh Christ, was there?
Bruce Willis was past the road.
Was that a game? Tell me it wasn't a taxi kart race.
I was going to say.
Oh no, it was really bad.
But what else could it be like that?
I'm sure it was Fifth Element where to move it was the face buttons on PS1.
Oh, that's actually disgusting.
It was terrible.
That's
fucking hell.
But yeah, Battlefield Hardline. I was really excited for it until I saw that gameplay leak.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about the concept behind it when the press release came out, and it sounded really interesting.
It does a kind of cops and robbers game. There isn't like many really good examples of that right now because Rainbow Six is kind of fallen out of
setting is it? Is it like urban or
LA? Yeah,
like LA, right? Okay,
so
it's not like you're a policeman in Afghanistan.
No. But yeah, it's against the drug cartels. It seems to be, and you're like a rookie cop. Sort of like 51st State.
Okay.
Your partner is a crooked cop.
I've got a feeling, as is often the case in Battlefield games, I'm not going to give a shit about the campaign already from just the way the characters talk to each other and the way it's framed as like a... I don't know, it looks like they're going to approach the idea of doing almost like TV episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm more interested
like
in the multiplayer stuff. Well, it won't be anything like that.
They'll try to do that narc type thing, and that's the problem is that the gameplay looked not great from what we saw. I was hoping something, because it's visceral, I thought they might have done something really different. That's an
important thing to mention. It's not DICE.
Yeah, it's not DICE. It's the guys who made the Dead Space series. And you'd have... Because we did.
I thought they were supposed to be working on some Star Wars thing, aren't they? Is that still happening?
I don't know. Because DICE are doing Battlefront. Yeah. Battlefront, yeah. So maybe there was some sort of movement around with that sort of stuff. But when we got the press release, it was like it was only about a few minutes before we saw the gameplay leak, but we started speculating on what they could be doing. We didn't even know if it was first or third person in the press release. So, I mean, the gameplay it looks very similar to how it works in Battlefield. Even there is vehicle stuff in that as well. Not tanks, unfortunately, but there's cars.
They've got jets in it though. I noticed there's helicopters and jets.
Yeah, I think the jets might just be a sorry to use the word, Levolution thing.
Oh, God, yes, and they use the word Levolution. They haven't let it go just yet. Levolution is still out there.
But it looked, when we first watched it, because there is a heist mode in it, it looked so similar to Payday, didn't it? When we watched the heist mode in the game. Because there is that thing, it is literally cops and robbers, that mode where you just go and you rob a bank, try and beat the cops out. So you think that's just Payday.
Yeah, and you know what? Like that, I think there is room for that, because I'm not convinced Payday
isn't a terrible game.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to like that. I think they completely fucked it with the progression in that game. It means you can't do anything fun until you played for about 40 hours. Some people are okay with that. I think it's a bit shitty.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about internet people, isn't it? Some people are genuinely okay with a game being fucking awful for 40 hours.
Final Fantasy 13. Yeah. Exactly the same.
What do you mean you didn't like it? You haven't played it for long enough. I'm sorry, I don't have 40 fucking hours to spend doing something I'm not enjoying.
Just running down a corridor for fucking 3 weeks.
Some people are completely into that. I guess if you really commit to one or two games at a time and you want to spend a lot of time in it, then it offers that. But I just think I don't know, the whole class system in that thing falls apart for me because of that reason alone. I imagine
you had a 16-foot long sub sandwich
and I already know what you're going to say here.
And the first 15 feet of it,
he's going to use the word jobby,
was shit. And
at either end as well, it's not like you can cheat.
The last foot of
it's
it
like
was
Italian BMT with southwestern
sirloin
sauce.
steak. Yeah. And everyone's like,
we've got
you got to play it long enough to get to the fucking steak. And you're like, yeah, but I've got to eat 15 feet of shit. I don't want to eat 15 feet of shit. Oh, you just don't get it. Fucking journalists.
Yeah, it sucks because I think Payday 2 could have been ace. You can see the framework's almost there. Unfortunately, whenever I played it, it just became, because we haven't got enough stuff to do this in a stealthy approach. It becomes like a wave survival mode by the end of it. I think because of how Battlefield will set it up, and you're playing both the cops and the robbers,
And Battlefield usually tend to do progression better than games like Payday 2. Then I reckon it will be fun. I just
hopefully, because the concept is really good.
Yeah, and I think that, like I say, I think there's room for it because there aren't those games that did Cops and Robbers, SWAT Force, and like over the top criminals. There aren't that many games doing that right now, and it's a popular
strong
genre
cast as well of actors for the single player campaign. They got people from House of Cards, Americans, and something else. Yeah, and they're actually using their likeness as well in the game. I can't remember the name of the actors, but it'll be in the story as well.
Ah, yes. Oh, crap. Yeah, no, they do mention that in that little gameplay snippet, don't they? Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. Maybe the single player will surprise me. I reckon it'll be the multiplayer that'll be the fun part.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the few people who play first-person shooter single-player campaigns and enjoy them. So hopefully there is something there.
I do. I just don't. I don't think Battlefield do it very well.
Although they don't.
In the multiplayer stuff, actually, the one thing that stood out in that gameplay, it's like 7 minutes of gameplay. Actually, it's quite cool.
Yeah. I think that was the one. Again, it's the investors promo thing that they put forward to try and get the game off the ground. It is definitely not a trailer.
Yeah, I mean, it's still got its code name in that.
Omaha,
which is, although they confirmed it as Hardline. They've got, I think it's like zip wires and like grappling hooks.
Yeah, for the rappels
that you can use. By the looks of it, anywhere you want.
Yeah, that is actually a line in the trailer saying use it anywhere and anytime you want.
That sounds ace. And the fact that Battlefield tend to do Levolution fairly well. I'm going to keep using Levolution because it's a funny word.
They promo those grappling things to actually get at campers as well in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd imagine it's not going to be like you'll be walking along, you'll see like a glowy thing to click on, which means that you can use a grappling hook there. Hopefully, you can just use it on command.
Yeah.
I think that'll be interesting. Hopefully means you can like approach like different heists in very different ways.
Yeah.
And I like an emphasis on teamwork there rather than just you kind of Call of Duty run and gun.
It's always rough it's tough when it comes to like major releases like a Battlefield or Call of Duty to try and encourage that teamwork.
Yeah,
that's the only problem.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not blown away by what we've seen just because it just looks a little bit too close to. I think James actually pointed out in the office the Battlefield gameplay trailers are usually they do something that's like really impressive visually, and not that that's a huge thing for me, but it didn't quite have that sparkle.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when you saw the Battlefield 4 stuff or Battlefield 3, then it like you can't help but go, oh man, that looks really nice. Like even if it's like over the top, freaking like
a building falling in China Rise.
Or just like ridiculously shiny windows. Like it does something that goes, oh, that looks really nice.
Did you stop and look at the windows?
Yeah, of course.
Shiny windows, man.
Yeah,
big fan.
You and your shit
I don't think they've quite got that. Maybe that's just with it being a different team.
Windows are like the unsung fucking hero of video games.
Right?
Like, if they fuck the windows, the whole thing's fucked. Like you have to get the windows looking spot on.
Yeah, I want to see.
It's like the sound man in television. The sound man gets no love whatsoever, but without the sound man, you wouldn't be able to fucking hear anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No love for the sound man. We never used to play Cops and Robbers when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to play Willy Touch Run.
Wait.
That sounds.
Who with?
Sounds real.
Was this with an adult that you put, like a PE teacher or someone?
No, it's just like kids in the playground. It was just there was nothing sordid about it. It was just tag.
Willy.
It was just tag, except if you were it, you had to get your dick out.
Right, cool. I mean, shit, it's a bit messed up, Jim. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, explains a lot. Explains a lot. It does. I have wondered why you walk around with your penis flailing in the air throughout the office. I've always found that a little bit.
It's not true, by the way. I just made that up.
Thanks, fuck. I thought we were going to have an intervention there.
There isn't a game called Willy Touch Running. I just got bored with all the Battlefield chat.
Well, it was a good segue.
That's how you do a segue, Bratters. That's how you do it.
I can't compete with that. Yeah, there's going to be a Battlefield thing. We're going to see it at E3. Maybe it will be good. Maybe it won't be good. That's video games. That's life. Okay, cool.
Speaking of Willy Touch Run,
shall we move on to some questions?
Jet Set Willy was good, wasn't it?
Fucking hell, we've podcasted for quite a while already.
Have we really?
All right, we need to get on with it then. We've still got a fucking Scammel section to edit in, haven't we?
Oh, crap, yeah. I'm gonna
say hi to Scammel for me.
Yeah, I will do. Shall we? Right, I'll ask some of the best questions quickly. Okay. And then we can wrap this motherfucker up. Okay, so we got one here from James O. Butler, known as Clockpunk on Twitter, who says, his question is, why bother?
So
you
you're
never
saying-
read mine out.
So the context of this, sorry, is that we've asked,
For questions
Yeah,
on
right.
Twitter.
send us your
We
questions,
usually do
and he says,
Why bother? You never read mine out. Same one posted for past 6 weeks. Whenever you put this call out. ... And I guess the answer to that is
You're a
whoa.
Jesus, Brett.
That
Jesus.
is well of lying. That is not what I was going to say. At
No,
all.
I was kidding.
Okay. I was going to say, maybe, I don't know, try this.
You've totally thrown Brett off.
I know, yeah. I knew that was going to catch him. I'm totally kidding.
He's
but-
totally doing the Boris Johnson.
Yeah. I was meant to see his reaction.
Maybe try a different question. If you've tried the same one for 6 weeks, chances are we've probably read it. We've already answered that question.
we're-
a strong possibility.
Yeah.
Or we just don't really know that we'd have a good discussion with it.
Or maybe we didn't see it because we do get quite a few
No, I
from various different channels.
I think I do a pretty good job of seeing all of them. So if I'm not asking your question today,
I'm trying to dig you out of a hole here.
Yeah.
If you want to
we're
just
saving
fucking-
them for later on, right?
if you want me to just chuck you a shovel
Yeah.
instead, that's
I'll
fine.
tell you what, Clockman, what I'll do is I'll give you Brad's personal email address and his home address. So you can go
yeah,
round
I'll
and
give you
ask him.
Brad's phone number.
Yeah.
I live with Simon Miller, so there's a chance that he'll answer. And
Yeah.
then
Man, living with Simon Miller, you must feel pretty secure though.
I think I'm the man of the house, if I'm honest. Jim.
I don't believe that for a fucking second.
Absolutely
Man,
not.
man, from a home security angle, like I would like to live with Simon Miller.
Yeah.
just 'cause
Yeah,
would
I mean,
feel
my
safe.
Imagine the Willy Touch run
My
that
home
you played.
insurance rates are well down. Oh god. Right. Let's see here. What have we got? Someone, Jack Sellers asks that he says that he was going to buy Watch Dogs on the Xbox One marketplace digitally this week, and it's about 15 quid more expensive than a physical retail copy. Why is that the case, Jim? And should it change? Well, it should change, obviously. I think the reason for
won't.
it is largely to do with their relationship with retailers. I think. This seems to be the ongoing thing.
Yeah, I think it's basically to keep the shops happy.
Yeah.
Because if they do it
because-
cheaper, then they won't stock it
Yeah.
in retail.
And
It's not that they
there is
won't- they-
no good reason really for it because I mean, by definition, it costs Microsoft fuck all to serve that game to you. I mean, it's so obvious, but you know they don't have to put loads of copies on a van. They don't have to pay people to stack the shelves. They don't
Print
have
the
to pay.
disc themselves.
Yeah, you know, it's totally fucking
I think-
ludicrous
yeah,
that digital copies cost more than retail versions. But it's basically a.
Well, the reason I think
yeah.
is because Microsoft are currently trying to sell Xbox Ones to people,
Yeah.
and
And
if they
you can't download an Xbox One, you have to
Exactly.
go to game to buy
if
it.
they sidestep the retailers, then your mum's going to buy a PlayStation 4 this Christmas
Yeah.
instead of an Xbox One for
So-
the game.
Mario Kart also costs £50 on the eShop this week.
Yeah.
And it costs, again, £15 less in any retailer that you can find. So
Yeah.
it's the same principle for all of them. It's not
Yeah.
just Microsoft.
It's only PC gaming that
we're
manages it,
living in
really.
a really, really strange world where you know the version of the game that actually costs more to get into your hands costs less to buy.
Yeah.
But there we go. Of course, there is the whole angle as well. That I mean, you could argue from a socialist kind of standpoint that you know anything that keeps people in jobs is a good thing, right? So you know, I'm not going to begrudge people working in game too much, but
I've told you about bringing socialism into this podcast, Jim.
But from I remember there was all before my time. I remember there was always a guy on the Video Gamer podcast comments who used to really get upset with Matt for being so left wing on the podcast.
yeah.
I wonder what that guy's up to now. He probably fucking hates me. I'm just as bad.
Problem is, though, as well, is that people are saying, like, people get on the anti-pre-owned thing at the minute. Well, the problem is, if it's cheaper to buy it physical, then you're going to do it. And also, when you buy digital, you can't trade it in when you're done with it. And that was the regret that I had when I bought Ground Zeroes. I was done with the game. I bought it digitally because it was same price. I thought, why not? But then when I was done with the game, I thought, well, it's just going to sit there, taking up hard drive space on my PS4, and I can't do anything with it.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
trade it in. So
God, you sound so depressed right now.
I know, yeah, it was a
So
bad time.
depressed.
Yeah,
You know, Watch Dogs was 60 quid, which is fucking horrendous.
That's
Like,
horrific.
I
That
mean, it's stupid.
ridiculous.
I paid it. Like I should point out as well. I didn't get a review copy or anything like that. I bought it with my own money as I've been planning to do since it was announced, which is fine. But yeah, 60 quid. The whole next gen markup thing has got to fucking stop.
Yeah.
like It really has. But I'm sure the next gen prices will come down gradually once it's established.
And eventually, like the digital stuff has
the
got
digital
to become more and more
marketplaces
important.
will need to settle down.
Yeah,
right? 'Cause,
sales have got to get better as well to match what is going on with digital sales in Steam.
Yeah.
Sony are doing a really good job of that
See,
lately.
I think Steam maybe go too far the other way, like because Steam sales when you're getting games for like 2 pence, which is a thing that's happened. Like I've bought games that have been like bundles of games where you get like three games in the pack for like 30p. And this is on Steam.
Yeah.
Oh right,
Like
shit.
the Ben there, Dan that. And the other guy. I got those games for like there was a deal where you got them for 1 pence each. I'm sure that was the case. It was like it was in the single pennies, whatever I paid for those 2 games. I'm not fucking played them. I just bought them because they were like because it cost me basically nothing. Like I think Steam goes too far the other way, where
You start
it's
buying,
almost devaluing the kind of art, or you start buying shit just because it's cheap and you never fucking play it.
You also stop paying full price, waiting for it to be in a sale as
Yeah,
well.
totally.
I think that is.
I think
actually,
that kind of damages the industry in a different way.
It's pretty much a given now that a lot of games on release day, usually the release week will have a discount to start off with. So it'll be like if you buy it on launch day, it's already in the sale. It's 10% off.
Yeah,
and I think because. It's hard to get angry at the Steam sales. They are wonderful, and it is great to have that
You sound like an
excitement.
asshole when you kind of sound like you're railing against spending less money on stuff. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a cheapskate fuck, whenever possible. But yeah, I mean, when you think about big picture, that stuff is just as damaging.
There's definitely a balance there to be struck, and
totally.
PlayStation are the ones who are pushing it at the minute to try and find that balance. But they're doing great sales at the minute, and PlayStation Plus is definitely something that
totally.
Microsoft are trying to adopt with games.
I mean,
of Gold.
Sony certainly aren't. They're certainly not fixing any problems really, but they are trying.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think that's kind of like. I mean, just talking about in general about the perceptions of the platform holders. I think a lot of goodwill has come Sony's way recently because they're trying.
Exactly.
They are actually responding, and they
Definitely.
are trying to do things better than they did in the last.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
whereas Microsoft have gone the opposite.
They've had to backtrack on so much. Like, there's certain moments like I remember at Gamescom, like Sony went way over the top with the word indie. Like they said we love indies like several times throughout their.
They backed it up, to be fair.
In the Sony press conference, Gamescom, and like they had the whole their curved screen. They showed a load of games, and they were constantly like really hoping that you'd believe them. And yeah, fair play to them. A lot of the games have just been ports to the PlayStation 4. In fact, the majority of theirs have.
Yeah, but even today, on NeoGAF, they announced today that they're funding all the booths for indie games at Tokyo Game Show, even ones that are not coming to PlayStation. So, I mean,
exactly,
it's been continued.
It's
not
nice
just a
to see that.
That's really cool.
Everyone, or any indie developer that I've spoken to that work with them, does seem to can't stop raving about them. And obviously, I imagine a lot of that's because their games are exclusive to Sony for a time period or whatever. But still, it's nice to believe them about that for a change.
It's never forced on the developers though, that exclusivity. Whereas with Microsoft, you can hear the negativity from those developers because they have that release parity thing always in their contracts. They say where you come out first on Xbox and then you go elsewhere. Whereas with Sony, it's
and again, they are playing catch up, and they are also like that. The whole ID scheme they've got in place now is starting
I think
to bring some cool shit.
I think what it boils down to is Sony have actually put their money where their mouth is when it comes to indies, and Microsoft.
Oh, they are now.
They're trying.
They are now, and it is like it is a much easier
big,
platform to get onto than the Xbox 360 was. Other than the indie game marketplace, which was.
But in terms of how that affects their image, it's kind of too little, too late. But you see, the thing about Microsoft and indies and Sony and indies, like, I mean, this is probably different now since they've revised their policies and stuff. But when Microsoft used to talk about how much they loved indies, they would show you 10 minutes of Minecraft footage, which basically said Microsoft loves indies if they make $1 billion fucking dollars. Couldn't give a shit otherwise. Like, and Sony actually invest in indies, and the other thing is as well, they also invest in the kind of the ethos of a lot of indie games, kind of the art aspect of games, trying things that aren't necessarily going to destined to sell 1 billion copies, but are worth doing for the sake of doing. Like, you know, they're like the, what was it called? Was it the Swan?
Oh, Unfinished Swan.
Yeah, and the Unfinished Swan. Rain, Journey, all that kind of stuff like that. Those were Sony. They were second party, a few of them, I think. But it was like it was Sony money.
Yeah. That's come out today. Actually, that they've now raised enough money to not be exclusive to Sony anymore. So that'll be interesting to see what their future's going to be. But yeah, I completely agree, and I still think Microsoft, they are playing catch up, and I'm really happy to see it. I still think they could do it a little bit better. Like Super Time Force came out, when was it? A week ago or 2 weeks ago?
Something, yeah. It was,
very recently, and you can hardly tell on the Xbox One like dashboard. It's very. You have to look for that game.
Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah. They're not proud.
You have to walk for it, Brett.
Yeah, so I think that probably wraps up the questions. We've already done a fairly lengthy podcast, and we need to have a chat with Scammell. Yeah, I'll save some of these questions for next week. So sorry if I didn't read yours out. What was his name? James O'Butler. But that a little bit too much venom. That's. Thank you for joining me, chaps. It's a freeway podcast, and you know what? It's been delightful.
It's been great, isn't it?
Yeah, it was good fun.
Fantastic.
We even talked about video games.
I know. Imagine it.
Yeah. So other than that, if you'd like to send any questions in for next week, podcast@VideoGamer.com, and if you'd like to win a free video game, go on the forums. There's a forum thread. We're asking you what Microsoft are going to be up to at E3 and do some stupid drawing that makes us laugh and win a video game, which is pretty right.
Oh, don't just draw a cock, though.
You can. Like, I mean, don't you? Like, it probably won't win.
I do have to appeal, as much as it pains me to do so, for people to stop sending in Batista pictures. I think Simon's getting upset.
Potentially, especially
Batista being photoshopped shitting on the toilet.
That's. Well, I mean, it's not largely because of you. That was.
I mean, if you want to send that to me, that's fine. Because I mean, I find that shit hilarious. But I think. I think I need to repair some bridges with Simon starting that whole thing.
Man,
Simon not happy, man.
Just like Microsoft, you're backtracking like a motherfucker. And yeah, that's
every 5 minutes in the office. Jim, I've just been sent another fucking picture of Batista.
Who was that?
I don't know. It's my impression of Simon.
Since go out. Okay, cool. That was a Video Game UK podcast, and I'm going to go have a chat with Scammell now. So.
I'm going to play Woody Touch Go with Jim.
Good luck with that.
Suggest that to Scammell. He'd be right into that.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll ask him. Okay, guys. I'll catch you later.
Bye.
And now on to a Skype call with David Scammell.
It's the Scammell Jam.
Hello, Scammell.
Hello.
How are you, my friend?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Is this good enough, or do you want me to plug in a proper microphone?
This is absolutely fine. It sounds authentic.
Really?
If I'm honest, yeah. What's that crackling noise? Are you eating?
No.
You better not be fucking eating. This is a podcast.
Oh, we live on the air right now, are we?
Well, we're never actually live. I don't want to break the fourth wall here, but this is all done in advance.
Yeah.
How are you, mate? How's your holiday been? I've missed you in the office.
I'm good. I've just got out of bed.
Excellent. It's 5-1, Dave.
Yeah. I've
right.
Put
good.
Some underwear on just for you for this occasion. Because all week there's not been much of that.
Not a lot of underwear.
No.
Right. Okay.
Not doing much.
Just having a chilled out time. When are you back in? It's not till next week, is it?
Next week.
Fucking hell, mate! You've had so many holidays recently. This is bullshit.
I've got another one coming up after E3 as well.
You have
amazing.
Not. I have. God damn it, Scammell.
Oh yeah.
You don't do any fucking work. That's your problem.
I'm going to Centre Parks, mate. Do you want to come?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Who are you going with?
The family.
Okay, you want me to come to Centre Parks with your family?
Yeah, there might be horses and all sorts of shit.
Oh, I do like horses.
Yeah.
Sounds excellent.
I tell you what, I've been playing Watch Dogs.
Yeah, we just talked about that for about 40 fucking minutes, mate.
Oh right, I won't keep you then.
It's pretty good, but it's not really my cup of tea, if I'm honest.
A lot of weird sex stuff.
Yeah,
it's a bit odd. Yeah,
I haven't seen any of that. Now I'm suddenly more interested.
Are you?
What do you mean by weird sex stuff?
Well, it's all sort of, I don't know, it's a bit constant. Like, and you'll hack into people, and it's like, oh,
what?
Have you seen the video going around Reddit at the moment?
You hack into people and have sex with them?
Well, no, you don't have sex with them, but you listen into their weird, things. So there's this video, right?
Mm.
There's a video on Reddit at the moment, which is a guy explaining to this girl over the phone about how he asked some other girl to tie her hair around his cock and then jerk him off.
What?
And it's a little bit weird. But then
that's a really specific thing to include in your game.
There's one that I saw yesterday. It's like you hack into the CTOS system, and it basically it shows a camera perspective from within what might be their electronic equipment. So it might be like a camera through their laptop or whatever.
Right.
And you can see what they're doing.
That's always the worry, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's this guy there with a fleshlight measuring his dick. And it's like, this is a bit much, mate.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, I know that's put you off Connect quite a lot, hasn't it? The thought of someone from Microsoft
not in the box anymore.
Yeah. Whilst you sit around without underwear.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you were quite into the weird sex stuff, though, aren't you, Dave? I mean, that sounds right up your street.
Well,
I thought that'd be a plus.
There comes a point where you're like,
a little bit too much.
This is, it's a bit too much. And you start to think, who actually has been writing this stuff?
Yeah, I'm always worried that, like, I don't know, someone will walk in, like, mid-scene whilst that's happening. I have to explain that,
while you're there measuring your dick with a fleshlight?
No, whilst I'm watching...
Suddenly a horse pops his head round the stable and you're like, oh...
Whilst watching a character in a video game measure their cock with a fleshlight, I'd have to then explain...
Well, he's not measuring it with a fleshlight. I mean, probably should explain that a little bit clearer.
Right, okay.
He's measuring it with a ruler, I believe.
Okay.
But using this tool to enhance the
got you. Right, so he's measuring his erect penis.
And yeah.
All right. Well, it's one of them, isn't it? I mean, should it be in video games? Who knows? Right? Who knows?
It's not funny. That's my.
And you think that's what they're going for? They want you to laugh at that.
Yeah.
You go, that's a man's penis being measured.
You know me. Like, I'm no prude.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
not at all, Dave. Quite the opposite, in fact.
And GTA 5 that had sex stuff in it, but the difference is it was funny in that. It was written quite well, and it made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, it just feels like, let's just
a penis for penis' sake.
Weird sexual deviancy in there. It's like you go around and look at hacking people or whatever, right. And it's like, oh, she's got a fetish for clowns. Oh,
excellent. What are you going to do with that information?
Exactly. I don't know. It's just a bit odd. A bit too much sometimes. Every now and then, fine, but it constantly throws it in your face. You know,
a little bit too much penis, like being forced at you in Watch Dogs. Okay, well that's an interesting take on it. It's not something we covered in the podcast actually. It's always nice to get your insight.
Bring it up, yeah.
But I think this is actually. I think we're putting this in at the end of the podcast. Not that we're leaving you till last, but
save the best.
Yeah, save the best till last. That's what I was going for. Exactly, Dave.
How have you been this week, Christopher?
I've been pretty good. I mean, it's just I'm used to seeing your face across from me in the office.
Yeah.
When something controversial happens, I've got no one to blame.
To blame?
Yeah, or we have a merry old time, Dave, and I've kind of missed that this week.
Well, Tom's not there either, is he?
He's not. I mean, that less so. I'm having a good time. I feel like a normal person.
Right. Good.
Which is nice. But I think that's actually the end of this week's podcast, Dave. It's lovely to hear from you.
Well, it's lovely to hear all the discussion you guys are having. I agree and disagree in equal measure with all the things you've been talking about.
In this live podcast.
In this live podcast that I've been listening into.
Excellent.
From about 50 miles away.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your week, mate. Don't do anything to, just chill out, relax. You've earned it.
I am going to, mate. I am going to.
Now, take that underwear off and go and I don't know, watch some awkward sex scenes in Watch Dogs or whatever it is you're up to.
I could compare my own with the in-game one.
You certainly could, David. And we'll probably leave it there. Thanks very much, mate.
No worries.
I'll see you on Monday.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.